Okay, we are at Stivers School for the Arts. It is November the 15th, and this is Michael Earl. His birth date is December 15th, 1944, and the interviewees are Angelina McLaughlin and Alexander Anderson. And the organization is Stivers School for the Arts. Okay, what branch of the war were you in?
Army.
Okay. Well, did you have a rank?
Yes, I made E5, sergeant, buck sergeant, before I left Vietnam.
Okay. And where did you serve?
I was in Fort Knox for basic in AIT. Got my orders to go to Vietnam. Went to Vietnam, and that when I actually extended 51 days to get out of the Army 5 months early when I got back to the United States. So I only spent 19 months and 1 day in the Army.
Oh, wow. Okay. What year did you go to Vietnam?
December 1967.
Okay. Were you drafted?
Yes, I was drafted in June of '67.
Okay. Where in Vietnam did you start?
I landed in Saigon, Ben Hoa Airport. That was in the 3rd of the 5th Cavalry, and they were attached to the 9th Infantry Division, which was south of Saigon, about 30 miles. And they were in a base camp called Bearcat.
What were the conditions there like? The
Hot,
weather?
muggy. It was just stifling in December. Dusty. Just typical hot summer weather.
Was a lot of the enemy there?
No, I didn't. I spent about a week in introduction. They had a training where you would go through with your M16, and we called it the land of the pop-up targets, because the targets would come up and we'd shoot them, and did that for a couple of days. And so they did an indoctrination before they sent you out to the field, because I went right out to the field. And December 20th, I went out to the field, and so it took I got there about a whole week before I got actually assigned to my unit in the field, and that night we were mortared. So I got a real indoctrination into being in Vietnam, and 4 guys were killed that night. That was about December 20th that night.
Did you move anywhere else?
Yeah, we moved all around. We were a mobile unit because we were the APCs, the tanks. What we would do, our job was to run the roads at night, late evening, early morning, and to keep the VC from mining the roads. That was our primary job. We did other things too. We did sweeps across open fields, and that's where they didn't have a whole lot of open field, but we did do sweeps through banana plantations, and it was just typical Army stuff where you would do a sweep. But most of the time we were doing caravans through from one city to another, or running the roads at night, with no lights.
How many tanks were in your...
Well, we were 3rd of the 5th Cavalry had 4 troops: A Troop, B Troop, C Troop, and D Troop. A Troop had 3 tanks and 6 armored personnel carriers. Same with B Troop and C Troop. D Troop was the helicopters that supported us out of 9th Infantry, and and Headquarters Troop had all the cooks and everybody else, that followed us. So for each troop, there was 3 tanks and 6 APCs. So our whole unit, we had 9 tanks and 18 armored personnel carriers.
Oh.
So it was a big unit. We all got together.
Oh, okay. Did you get to contact your family when you were over there?
Not personally, just through letters, and then later we had audio tapes that my wife and I would send back and forth to each other, so we could actually talk to each other.
Okay. Were you married? So you were married before you went
Yes,
to war?
I got married 8 months before I was drafted.
Oh, okay. How old were you?
I was 22.
Okay. How was the food over there?
Not terrible. Sea rations, if you got early in the month, you got better sea rations than later. We got into base camp. It was okay. It wasn't as good as the States, but it was okay.
Was there always enough?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, there's always extra sea rations. Some of it you didn't like, but there's always enough to eat.
Okay. How about other supplies?
They would bring out what they called them SP packages, and they would be full of cigarettes and candy and gum, and then they'd have cases of beer and cases of pop. They would bring out, and we put them in our vehicle. We'd lay them right in on over the ammunition, and of course you didn't have any ice, so you're drinking hot Wink or something hot, you know. And it didn't really quench your thirst. They would give us cases of beer, and drinking a hot beer and I didn't even like beer at the time, so it wasn't great. We had no ice, so you had to drink everything hot.
Yeah. So were you in active combat?
Yes, from December 20th approximately till I got wounded March 30th, 68.
Okay. How many battles do you think you were in?
Personally, 3. The night I got to the field was a mortar tank, and we were being attacked that night. And then there was another small scrimmage that we had along the road. And then March 30th was the really big battle.
Oh.
Now, I was a C troop, but A troop and B troop during the Tet Offensive, they were out maneuvering all over the place, going to Benoit and Pontoon Air Force Base, but we were stationed that week for pulling security for the Seabees, so we never even fired a shot. So, you know, during Tet we didn't get involved at all. Our A troop, B troop, and C troop did.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Good for you. Before a battle, did you do anything for good luck?
No, the only thing I saw, we moved from south to north, and as we're going down the river out of Saigon, my lucky number is 52.
Oh.
And that was on a sign there. Just take a breath. It was just a sign. I said to myself that that'll be my lucky number.
Did you make any buddies over
Oh,
there?
everybody. Yeah. You get to be a really tight family. The guys on your vehicles and you know, the guys in the track. We're having reunions now, and since '87, and so I still see some of the guys that weren't on my vehicle, but were on the other vehicles in the unit. So,
Okay.
still friends with all of them.
Did you fool around, prank anyone?
Not really. I couldn't think of anything we really, you know, being silly or anything like that. No, it was pretty serious most of the time.
Oh yeah. All right. Do you remember anything considerably funny?
Yeah, we were up north, and there was a Buddhist temple or something there, and I have some pictures of us. Well, it's actually a picture in the book that he just did, and we were just being goofy. This is Steve Wiggins, our track commander, and that's my hands around him. So we were just, you know, there's some other pictures, and they're in my folder here if you want to see them. And
Okay.
you know, we're doing statues, and then we did some karate chops that day. So we spent all afternoon just goofing around.
Okay. You want to show us those pictures?
Sure, if I can find them real quickly. I should have pulled them out.
That's okay.
Is that on? I should have had a mirror mark for that. Yeah, I can't find them very
Oh, that's
quickly.
fine.
They're in there someplace. They're
Okay.
similar to what was there.
What did you guys do on downtime for entertainment?
We played a lot of cards, and I have some pictures in here of playing cards, and wrote letters, listened to the radio a lot. They had all the, you know, popular songs on the Armed Forces radio. Other than that, you know, there's not much else. No place to go.
Were you there when they sent over entertainment?
Yeah, we were actually there the first week I was in the field. they told us we were going to go to Saigon for the USO, and we were all excited. Then we realized we were the tanks and the tracks, so we got to surround the whole base camp while the USO show went on. We never saw it. We could hear it, but we were pulling security for everybody else. So I could hear Bob Hope, but I never saw him.
Yeah, you can at least say you were there.
That's
then.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, so you said how long you stayed over there. It was 19 and a half months?
I was, yeah, well, I was in the Army 19 months and 1 day. I was actually in Vietnam from the middle of December till the end of January. Middle of December 67 to the end of January, January 29th of 69. So, about 13 and a half months.
Did you get leave between there?
Yes, I had a week's leave or a 5-day leave to go to Hawaii. I met my wife in Hawaii for our second anniversary, August 20th of 68. And then just before I came back, I had another leave coming, so I used it to go to Singapore with a buddy, and we just water skied and did all kind of crazy stuff there. So.
Okay. Where were you during the Tet offense?
Well, we were down south of Saigon, and we were pulling security for the Seabees. Our C Troop was, and A Troop and B Troop were the ones that were out running the roads like we would normally be doing. And that's when Tet hit. They were being overrun, and they called up our mechanized unit because they could get there very quickly. Somebody could respond quickly. And so they got up there, and there's another book that I couldn't find today. I think my daughter-in-law has it, but it's called Ringed in Steel. And they actually ringed the airport in Benoit, Tonsanut Air Force Base. They ringed it with the tanks and the tracks to keep it from getting overrun. That's where the name of the book came from, Ringed in Steel. And it tells about that whole time, but we were not part of Tet. And I say we never fired a shot. We were pulling security.
How was your morale during the war?
My morale's pretty good all the time. I don't usually get down too often, and none of us did. You know, it's pretty carefree. You're under a lot of stress, but you can't let it get the best of you. So you just, you know, things are pretty good. You're not in combat every day. I was there in the field about 90 days, and I just, 3 or 4 battles the whole time. So that's not very much, for that period of time. It seemed like once a month there was something went on.
I know you heard about the people that were killing innocent people, our troops that were killing innocent people over there. Did you hear that while you were over there?
No, you don't get a whole lot outside your own unit. We were attached to 9th Infantry Division, which was a big unit, but you even didn't get much contact with them. You're just so confined to what you're doing and your own people right around you.
What day were you shipped back?
January 28th of 1969.
How were people's reaction when you came back?
I didn't tell anybody I'd been to Vietnam. And when I got back in January 29th, and by about the 13th, 14th of February, I was back in college. And the demonstrations were so bad and everything else, I didn't tell anybody. Only my guys that I really knew, had met and knew, my close friends knew that I'd been to Vietnam, but I didn't tell anybody. There was still a lot of demonstrations. Ann Arbor, I went to school at Eastern Michigan University, and Ann Arbor is only 5 miles away, and there was big demonstrations over there. And I was not telling anybody that I'd been to Vietnam, because it was not popular. It was just not, we weren't welcome.
What were some of the injuries you got?
I was driving the track when the track got hit by an APC, RPG, too many acronyms. The armored personnel got hit by a rocket-propelled grenade. And so when I dove out of the track, I got shrapnel all down my arms and my backside. And when I got out on the ground, I was trying to open up the back door to see if I could get anybody out. And I was pulling on it. Just burst. and I fell on the ground, and I got shot through the mouth. And it knocked out these teeth and just about cut my tongue off. And the guys, everybody in the track was killed but me.
Did you get any medals?
Yeah, I got a Bronze Star, Purple Heart, of course. There's another Army Commendation. That was a unit citation, though.
Okay. Yeah, so, what did you do to go on as a career after war?
I'm a salesman. I got my degree in marketing from Eastern Michigan and went to work for a major wheeling corrugating company, and then took a job here in Dayton from there, and have been selling structural steel, commercial steel products for the last 32 years here in Dayton.
Yeah, and for your injuries, how long did it take to recover from that?
Not long. Your face is the fastest healing part of your body because there's so much blood. So they kept me on the hospital ship for 10 days, shipped me to Japan. I was actually in Japan about 4 weeks, and the doctor came in and said, we're sending, because what they were doing was the explosion brought all this dust and stuff in my eyes. I couldn't read, and they were waiting for me to, so I could read to send me back. I didn't know that, or I'd never been able to read. So when they came in the exam, he said, yeah, you're okay, we're going to send you back to Vietnam. I was really shocked. I thought I was going home. You know, and I was that close and dying the first time. It wasn't going to be that, be that lucky again. So I told the officer they sent me to, this was on a Monday, on a Sunday. He says, we're sending you back to Vietnam next Saturday. And I said, man, my wife was going to be here next Saturday. So he said, well, I'll give you a week's leave. And I had $200, and I was going someplace for a week, and I was lying through my teeth. But I called her on Sunday, and she was there on Saturday.
That's cool. So you did go back to Vietnam after that?
Yeah, I spent a week with her, and then I went back to Vietnam. Yeah, about middle to the end of May of '68.
Mm-hmm. But that was the only severe injury you had?
Yeah, because after that, I got back there, and I had a lot of shrapnel on the back of my leg, and I couldn't wear my boots. And they said, what are you going to do with me? He said, we don't have a job for you. You can't go to the field. I said, well, send me home. And he said, no, we can't do that. So the company clerk was leaving in about a month. He says, I guess you're going to, can you type? And I said, yes, sir, I took typing in high school. And I said, I guess you're our company clerk. I said, thank you, Lord. So I was a company clerk, and I was in the rear then the rest of the time. The whole rest of my tour I spent as a company clerk and never saw any more combat. Mm-hmm. So, but I did all the orders and everything else for everybody else that was wounded in my accident.
So after the war and everything, did you join a veterans organization?
I belong to Disabled American Veterans and Vietnam Veterans of America are the two organizations I belong to.
Did that shrapnel in your leg prevent you from walking normally again, or do you still, does it still bug you?
It's still a little tender, but not bad. Still can't wear high-top boots. It still bothers me there, but as far as it never has bothered me, and they don't operate on shrapnel. They do more damage trying to get it out. They just leave it in your body. So that's, it was never anything they did there except stitch me up.
Did you really agree with why we were fighting the war?
My dad was a lifer. He was in the Army for 22 years. And when Vietnam was really heating up about this time, and he says, whatever you do, don't go in the Army. The Army has nothing for you. And it's just, I went because I was drafted. There's no sense to it, War doesn't, I think you can solve all the problems by just talking about it, sitting down, and the wars are senseless, as far as I'm concerned. I'm pretty much a pacifist anymore.
Do you attend all the reunions and all that?
Haven't missed a one. I was really looking, the reason we got hit that day on March 30th, I never knew why. And, you know, we were the only track that really got hit and everybody else didn't. And I didn't know why, so it took me, there's a guy that has come to reunions in the last 6 or 8 years that he was on track 1-3, I was on track 1-6, and he told me what happened that day and why we got so far ahead and how we got hit and actually what happened. So I never knew. I was a driver. What I didn't tell you about being a driver is we were on a line that day, March 30th, and a driver is you don't have a steering wheel, you have 2 levers, and so as we started getting ground fire, this was an NVA, tunnels, the whole shot of entrenched in bunkers and everything else, and we ran up on them, and we didn't have our tanks that day because they couldn't get across this ravine. So we just had the armored personnel carriers, and so we were all in line, and the ARVNs, the Republic Army of Vietnam, they were behind us. They were the ground troop. Well, so when we started receiving fire, they all ran to the rear, and so they left us out there really exposed. And so when they received fire, I dropped my lever, and then because my head's up out of the track, and then when I drop my lever, then I drive by 3 periscopes, and I just have my headphones, the track commanders tell me what to do. So I can't see anything but 3 periscopes. So I have no idea really what's going on except what my track commander's telling me and looking out these 3 periscopes. So I had no view of really what was going on that day. I just knew we were getting small arm fire, and then when we got the RPG, rocket propelled grenade, I bailed out.
Do you have any desire to return to Vietnam?
Yeah, I've actually talked to my wife, and we're probably going to do it next year through the Vietnam Veterans Association. They're building clinics and hospitals, and whatever else they do. They go over for a whole month, cost you $3,000 a person, so you have to put that up front. So that's we're willing to do that, and we'll go over for a month. So we thought we were going to do it this year, but we just can't swing it.
When you were there, did you get to learn any of the language?
No, very little. Dinky Matt, Dinky Dow is kind of crazy. If you're Dinky Dow, you're crazy. Just silly things like that. Dai Huy was captain. We used to talk to some of the Vietnamese around there, and they didn't understand our English, and we didn't understand their Vietnamese. So it was a struggle. We were never in contact with them. I was in contact with them more in the base camp than we were ever out in the field. If anybody came up to you out in the field, you were real suspicious.
Well, how did this all affect your life?
Oh gosh. Makes things are more precious. My children, my grandchildren, they're just, they wouldn't be here if I'd been killed. So, just, there's so many good things to be part of, and don't need to dwell on the stuff that hurts. So I get real caught up in all of it, I guess. Too sentimental. So maybe it has made me more sentimental too, I don't know. I'm more emotional, I think, than I ever have been in my life since I've come back. So I don't know what it did, as far as that part of me. when I came back, they said I'd changed, and I said, no, I haven't changed. But I think what happens in war is you lose your innocence. You see a part of life that you don't want other people to see. Have to breathe.
You want to take a break?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
It comes and goes.
Is there anything else you'd like to add that I haven't asked?
Just stress that, it was really a family. Everybody worked together and pulled together. Just, we did everything together.
Did you keep a diary? Did anyone in your...
I didn't, but the man that wrote the book, Ringed in Steel, was our executive officer. His name is Michael Mailer, and he did. And that's, after reading that book, and even reading this book, I learned stuff that, being a private, you don't know what's going on. Only the officers know what's going on. And, so you learn more about what happened, why this thing went awry, and what you were doing in this area. We actually went from south to north. We were supposed to keep the roads open between Da Nang and Khe Sanh. Well, we never did that, but that's the reason we went up north. They actually transported us in a LST, a big ship, and they put the whole unit on there and shipped it up north from Saigon to Da Nang in the middle of February. So we went from hot to cold. And, but that was a different experience too, being from one end of the country to the other end of the country. The day I got shot we were about a click, which is a tenth of a mile from the DMZ. That's why there was NVA everywhere. It was different up north. You had VC down south, and up north it was more organized, and the North Vietnamese Army was much more formed and organized than what the VC. The VC was just hit and miss, and you just were chasing them all the time. But it was different up north.
Well, thank you for coming here and doing
You're
all
welcome.
this and answering all the questions. And I think that's about it.